I said back in my Dune Part 2 review that I was going to do some more Denis Villeneuve related content, and that is true in the sense that I have one more video planned, this one that you're currently watching. I was going to do a ranking of all of Denis Villeneuve's films, but in the end I decided not to do it because it's kind of an irrelevant video, because I haven't actually seen all of Denis Villeneuve's films. Yes, he is my favourite director, but I haven't actually seen his two earliest films because they are virtually impossible to track down here in the UK. Many people, if you're a film fan in the UK, you know how terrible our distribution system is. So his two earliest films of Maelstrom and August 32nd on Earth, I've never seen them. I don't know if I ever will see them. So I decided just to not do the ranking in the end because it felt kind of irrelevant. But if you were curious to know where Dune Part 2 landed within my ranking, I will post it on my Letterboxd, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. So you can follow me on Letterboxd and also see my Denis Villeneuve ranking as it stands right now with the inclusion of Dune Part 2. But what I did want to do in this video is talk a little bit about Denis Villeneuve and his future as a filmmaker, because there's been quite a bit of discussion recently about what his next film projects are going to be, and what I want to do is, by the end of this, have a nailed down prediction as to what Denis Villeneuve's next film is going to be. So recently on an interview during the press tour of Dune Part 2, Denis did discuss that he currently has 4 screenplays in the works. So what I want to do is go through each of these 4 screenplays, discuss what they are, and the likelihood of whether or not this is going to be his next project. So I'm going to start off with the obvious one. Dune Messiah, or otherwise known as Dune 3, this is definitely going to be a film that we're going to get from Denis Villeneuve at some point. There's obviously been a lot of discussion about Dune Messiah over the last few days following Dune Part 2's release. It's obviously the next step for the franchise. Obviously it'll be the 3rd film in this franchise, but it'll be adapting the 2nd book. Is Dune Messiah going to be Denis' next film? Personally, I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because Denis Villeneuve has said during the press tour of Part 2 that while he has plenty of ideas for what he wants to do in Dune Messiah, and that he's definitely working on it, he kind of wants to take a step back from Arrakis. He wants to take a bit of a break from this franchise for a bit, because he believes that it's healthy for him to not get bogged down in the same world and the same universe for so long, which is logical. I think for a director and a filmmaker and as a creative, you don't want to be doing the same thing for years on end when you kind of have to widen your palette every now and again. So Dune Messiah, it's definitely on the cards. I think obviously the box office will reflect whether or not we get that. But given the fact that Part 2 has already knocked Part 1's box office out the park, I think Dune Messiah is a pretty likely option, but I don't think it's going to be Denis' next film. I think there are 2 main reasons why Dune Messiah isn't going to be his next movie. For one, as I mentioned, Denis wants to take a break from Dune for a little bit. It's these, they're huge scale films, big projects, big budgets, and I think that, they are films that take a long time to make. And I feel like just after doing 2 of them back to back, he kind of wants to take a step back and just be like, okay, let's do something else. And also, when it comes to the story of Dune, I think the second reason why it's not going to be his next movie, there is a significant time jump between Dune and Dune Messiah. There's a 12-year time jump. So I feel like with Denis being very loyal to the books and, following the stories relatively closely, I think he's going to want to follow that in some way by also having a significant time jump between Dune Part 2 and Dune Messiah. I don't think it's going to be 12 years. I don't think it's going to be that long. I think it'd be closer to 5 to 6 years. But I think, again, following that, he's thinking, well, there is a story time jump, so I can leave it a few years, let Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya age up a little bit more, then I'll come back to the Dune franchise after I've done something else in the meantime. So, in my opinion, Dune Messiah, it's not going to be Denis' next movie because he wants to take a little break from the Dune universe, and also he wants to allow some time for that time jump to kind of reflect in the real world so that he can come back to Dune Messiah primed and ready to give us another incredible movie. The next film that has been discussed by Denis is an adaptation of Arthur C. Clarke's novel Randevu with Rama. Now, to kind of get this one out of the way quickly, I don't think Randevu with Rama is going to be his next movie, kind of for a similar reason as Dune Messiah. I think that Denis, he wants to take a little bit of a step back, he wants to take a break from Dune, but he also wants to take a break from kind of doing a big sci-fi epic. And that's all he's been doing the past few years. You know, when you look at both Dune movies, Blade Runner, Arrival, these are all big sci-fi projects. And while I know he's a huge fan of Randevu of Rama and he wants to adapt it, I think that that's something that's going to come later on down the line when he's done with the Dune franchise. I think for him to say, oh, I want to take a healthy break from Dune and do something else, I feel like it would be kind of counterintuitive to go from one big sci-fi franchise to another. I feel like if he wants that break, that doesn't mean doing Randevu with Rama. So it's definitely a film I think will happen down the line. I think we're definitely going to get this from Denis at some point. It's just not going to be his next film. Denis has also spoken about a third screenplay being a Cleopatra movie. This, I think, has a lot more of a likelihood to happen than the previous two that I've mentioned, mainly because it's something completely different. Not only is it different from big sci-fi, but it's also something Denis has never done before. Denis has never done a big historical epic. Yes, he's done a movie about a historical event before in the form of Polytechnique, and also I guess you could say, you know, Sicario is kind of based on real-world events in a sense. But he's never done a historical biopic epic before. And that's what Cleopatra would be. And I think that this would be a really cool choice for Denis. Like, personally, as a fan of, like, big historical biopics, you know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I always enjoy a good swing at one. And I think Cleopatra is a character that hasn't really been adapted that much before. And I think Denis Villeneuve would be a fantastic choice to do it. He has a great eye for strong female characters. We see that in all of his movies. And I feel like him taking on a character like Cleopatra, they're like a match made in heaven, really. Rumour has it Zendaya is going to be playing the lead role, which kind of makes sense following on from Dune. Obviously, I know there's going to be some controversy there regarding that casting, but makes sense, you know, personal relations-wise. There's also been rumours that Daniel Craig is being chucked around as Caesar, which that sounds really good. I think that Denis Villeneuve would honestly be a perfect choice for this, and I could just see it. This would be a gorgeous movie. I personally would love to see this. I really would like this to be his next film. And I think out of the four choices we have, this is probably the second most likely to happen. But it's certainly more likely than the previous two we've spoken about. And finally, the fourth screenplay that Denis has spoken about is his secret one that we don't actually know anything about. So I can't really talk about this movie because we don't know what it is. But what he has said about it is that it's basically ready to go and it's something that needs to be filmed and released soon. Which that tells me that obviously the story he's chosen here for this fourth screenplay is something that is very timely, something that's relevant to today, and he needs to kind of get it up and running and out so it's still relevant. This sounds really interesting, like it could be really cool. It also suggests to me that the film is going to be smaller in budget and smaller scale than what he's been doing in the past few years, which again I think leans into the idea that he wants to take a break from the big projects and do something a little bit smaller. This sounds a little bit smaller to me. So I think when it came, you know, to looking at these four projects and thinking which one is he going to do next, I think that this secret one is definitely the most likely, just because it seems smaller scale, and also he said it's basically ready and he wants to do it now. So out of all of these four screenplays, I think the most likelihood to happen is this secret one. The question is, though, what is it? Honestly, though, there's no point really trying to guess what this could be, because in reality, it could be about anything. When you look about Denis Villeneuve's filmography, all of his films are very varied and very different in regards to their subject matter. So this could be literally about anything. The only thing I will say is that there was a rumour floating around that this fourth project was going to be Sicario 3. This has actually been debunked by Denis himself. He has said that he's not heard anything about a third Sicario. He's not involved with it. So it's not Sicario 3. But I remember hearing that rumour and I was just thinking, I just don't see it. Like, I don't see a world in which Denis Villeneuve does a Sicario 3. They've already done a Sicario 2 and that was without Denis. And also without a lot of the main talent from the original. So I feel like there's just, I don't know, they might do a Sicario 3. Like, that rumour might be true that there is a Sicario 3 in the works. Especially because Sicario 2 did okay at the box office. But I don't think Denis will ever return to Sicario. Especially because it's not even Denis' franchise. It's Taylor Sheridan's. So I don't really feel like Denis is like the linchpin of the franchise necessarily. So this secret project, there was, again, rumours it was going to be Sicario. It's not going to be Sicario. And I'm personally okay with that. I would have, like, if they announced a Sicario 3 with Denis coming back, of course I'd be excited about it. but I don't see a world in which that ever happens. So I think that whatever this fourth secret screenplay is, that is the film that is going to be Denis Villeneuve's next film project, following Dune Part 2, and then after that, he will then go back to Dune to give us Dune Messiah. That's how I personally feel. But make sure you guys let me know in the comment section down below which of the 4 screenplays do you think is going to be Denis Villeneuve's next project. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like I say, this is just my own personal opinion. I've looked at all of them and I've been trying to sort of almost do like a ranking of them to see like from least likely to most likely, and that's just personally how I feel. But I'd love to see what you think. Make sure you let me know your thoughts, and if you want to see more movie-related content like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. I have got a new set of videos coming out soon, focusing around movies like Ghostbusters After, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, Godzilla x Kong The New Empire, many films coming up I'm doing some content on, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of it, and I hope to see you guys again next time.